This is obsessive behavior if ever I've seen it. Dr. Bobby Striker here with 3F Flow Physique Factory. And what are we talking about today? We are talking about weighing your food, the kitchen scale. Yeah. But before we get into it, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications, and drop us a comment for the algorithm. So, are you an obsessive, crazy person if you weigh your food? Okay, now, this is going to be controversial. What do I think about this? Should you be weighing your food? I think if you've never done it before, then you probably should do it for a period of time. And I'm going to explain why, okay? Now, keep in mind, of course, I'm coming from a slightly different place than a lot of you. I don't mean place in the world, I mean place in terms of my background as a doctor and all of that kind of stuff, okay? So when we see patients, when we treat certain conditions, we have to adjust the doses of medicines according to the patient's body weight, yeah? We may give a medicine to one patient at one tablet, twice a day. We might have another patient where we have to give the same medicine, maybe 2 tablets 3 or 4 times a day. If we're treating kids, children, infants, babies who have got fever and cough, runny nose, we have to weigh them. Yeah, we have to weigh the children so that we can give weight-appropriate doses of the medicines to those kids. If you overdose with medicines, it can be life-threatening, right? It can lead to organ failure, death, and all kinds of stuff. So like when I'm prescribing simple paracetamol for a baby or a child, I have to weigh the child to make sure I'm giving a good dose to control their symptoms, but not an overdose, okay? And on the other hand, if you've got an adult who's, whatever pounds, you're going to give them a different dose to the child, of course, because a pediatric dose for an adult is not going to be effective, okay? So why am I mentioning all that? Well, the body, remember, it's a biological machine, okay? There's lots of cellular processes going on, things happening. So that's why when we prescribe medicines, an easy way for us to estimate how that body is going to handle a medical dose, a medicine dose, a drug, is by looking at their body weight. That will allow us to kind of estimate how that person's body mass, keeping that into account, how they are going to metabolize medicines, okay? So how do we give medicines to people? They're taken orally. You put it in your mouth, goes through the stomach, gets absorbed into the bloodstream, then the drugs exert their effects. And how does this tie into weight gain? Well, how do we get our calories? Well, it comes in through our mouth in the same way, doesn't it? It comes in through food that we also put into our mouths, that goes through digestion, gets broken down, and all of those calories, macronutrients, micronutrients, it all gets absorbed. The thing is, how much food are you eating? You're not weighing your food. You don't know how much energy it's providing you. You're not measuring it. You're not titrating it in the way that we do with medicines to make sure the dose is appropriate for the person and the patient that we're treating. We're kind of left to our own devices when it comes to food. You feel hungry, eat. And then when you don't feel hungry, stop. But unfortunately, keeping in mind of the world that we're living in now, highly processed foods, highly calorific foods, highly palatable, really tasty stuff everywhere, and in the developed world at least, very easy to find and often very affordable. What happens when we eat, when we're hungry and you eat intuitively like this? Intuitively, you can easily exceed your daily calorie intake. And what happens when this goes unchecked over years, decades, or whatever? You start to put on the weight. And as you start to put on the weight, of course, your health can start to deteriorate. So now, I'm not being obsessive, I'm not being crazy, but for anyone who's never weighed their food, it can be actually a very useful exercise to do, because that is the only way you can start to get a rough feel for how much energy you are consuming. It's like, for example, if you are going to a chemistry lab and you have to mix exact proportions of chemicals to produce something, okay? That first time you are running that chemistry test, if no one gives you any instructions, you're probably going to end up with an explosion in your face, okay? But as you learn, okay, your chemistry teacher says you put in 2 grams of this or 2 ml of that, and you see how much that volume is, you can make a rough estimate moving forward, can't you? So the next time you keep running those same experiments, you'll be like, oh yeah, it'll be roughly, I bet this amount will be the amount that I need, and you weigh it and be like, oh yeah, I'm right. And food is the same. If you've never gone through the experience of weighing your food out to know exactly what calories you're consuming, you are kind of consuming foods blindly, okay? And that's where people can run into trouble because no one's given you any guidance about this. No one's told you actually for your body weight, you should be eating this amount, or for you should be eating that amount, and so forth. So I'm going to use my brother-in-law as an example. Now, he makes some of the worst coffee in the world. And how has he achieved this feat? Because it's no easy feat, and he's achieved it. What he does is he'll get the coffee Nescafe, and instead of using a teaspoon to pour, put 1 or 2 teaspoons into the coffee cup, he will shake it out. He'll shake out a bit into the coffee cup, add your milk and hot water, then be good to go. And every cup of coffee that he makes tastes completely different. Guaranteed. It's impossible for him to make 2 cups of coffee which are going to taste the same. And it's even less likely he'll make a cup of coffee that tastes good. For me, I'm the opposite. I will have exactly 3 heaped teaspoons of Nescafe. It's not sponsored, by the way. I just like Nescafe. It's convenient. So 3 heaped teaspoons of Nescafe Gold, 50 grams of skimmed milk, a couple of sweeteners, and I know exactly how much hot water I'm going to pour into it. And every time I have that coffee, it tastes identical and it tastes great. It's spot on every single time, guaranteed. If I'm only going to have 1 or 2 coffees a day, I want to make sure it tastes good. I don't want to take risks like anyhow randomly putting a random quantity of coffee in there. So I control it. But once I've done that for a few weeks, I find now that even when I don't weigh out the milk, I can approximate the same quantity of milk just by looking at it, because I've done it for a few weeks. Actually, I've been doing it for years. So now all of that experience has allowed me to visually assess things a lot more accurately. Same when it comes to food. So if I'm cooking some food at home, like maybe some chicken or some fish or some beef or whatever, if I had never gone through, number 1, cooking stuff myself, and number 2, weighing things out, I would be completely blind in terms of knowing, or at least trying to estimate, what kind of calories I'm consuming. And this is one of the reasons why when you speak to people on the street, or yourselves perhaps, or when I speak to patients, their own estimates of how many calories they're consuming on a day-to-day basis is usually 100% wrong. They're completely off the mark because they have nothing to compare to. They've got no frame of reference. They've never been shown what to do. They've got nothing to gauge and compare with. So if you spend a few weeks, you might raise a few eyebrows. Your family might be like, look, what's wrong with you? You're getting obsessed here. This is not healthy behavior. Actually, this is very healthy behavior for someone who wants to know what's going into their bodies. The same way we prescribe doses of medicine, you can prescribe yourself doses, volumes, quantities of food that's going to allow you to hit your fitness, weight loss targets and goals, okay? If you don't have any experience with food, then anytime you eat, it's pretty much a gamble. You've got no idea what kind of calories you're consuming. So it makes sense that you've got no one to blame. You've got no reason to be unhappy when you're disappointed with the results, because that's a huge part of the equation, okay? If you spend a few weeks seeing what a certain quantity of butter looks like, a certain quantity of cream looks like, how much 100 grams of cheese looks like, how much 100 grams of beef looks like, seeing these things, and you do this for a period of time, maybe for a few weeks or a few months, the longer the better, to be honest. The more well-informed you're going to be when you're eating at home, when you're eating out. Again, these are skills that you can bring with you anywhere in the world. You'll be able to eyeball a plate of food, a meal, and estimate the calories a lot more accurately. And as I said in the last video, it's not going to be 100% exact, because when you're eating out, it's impossible to be exact, because they're going to be throwing in so much stuff in there to make the food tasty. You can make an estimate. At least your estimate is going to be smarter than it was before, okay? Weighing your food is not obsessive behavior, Weighing your food is really a very useful tool if used properly, and it can really set you up with good habits for the rest of your life. It only becomes unhealthy if you allow it to control you and allow it to get the better of you. What do I mean by that? If, for example, I want to weigh out 50 grams of milk and I accidentally weigh out 52 grams, 53 grams, 55 grams, or maybe I was distracted, I put out 60 grams of milk. Am I going to get worked up about that? Is that going to crush my diet for the day? No, it's not. But there are people, when they are this focused on their weight loss journey, when they get this into it, that they can start to lose a grip. And that's when it can go into dangerous territory. But that risk kind of is there with anything when it comes to the whole fitness and weight loss thing. You know, whether you're doing intermittent fasting and you want to eat through a small window, oh no, I've exceeded that window, oh no, it's gone wrong. Whether you're doing keto and you slip up and you have a small piece of bread, whether you're doing paleo and you're like, oh no, I ate this piece of vegetable which isn't strictly paleo, you know. There's always going to be something there, some risk there that may kind of bring you down a rabbit hole that's going to make you like a little bit crazy, okay? So whatever fitness journey approach you choose, you do need to have that element of mind over matter to keep yourself from going crazy, to make it a healthy approach, but to make sure you are still in control, okay? That's important. These are tools to help you. They are not tools to take over your life, okay? If you need tools to help you, these are some very valuable tools that can do that, okay? So I hope that's useful. So remember, these are tools. Use it. It can help you, but don't go crazy about it. Really, I can't stress that enough. And that can be applied to anything in life. You go too head over heels in terms of anything, work, love life, relationships, anything, and it will ultimately end up being unhealthy. And it could be something even very mundane, like washing your hands. You got obsessed, it can become unhealthy. So too much of even a good thing can become a bad thing, okay? Hope you found that useful, guys. And remember, weighing your food is not crazy. I still do it every day. And like I said, it really has been very, very useful for me because it now gives me a frame of reference. So anytime I see food, I eat food, I can much more accurately assess what I'm eating. And if you've never done that ever, you are kind of eating cluelessly. Yeah, you're giving yourself a dose of calories, a dose of food, dose of nutrition, which could be far in excess of what you actually need. And that's definitely going to be the case if the weighing scale is going in a direction that you are not happy about. Yeah? Okay, guys. Hope you found it useful. If you did, please do like this video, hit the bell button, subscribe, drop us a comment, follow us on all of our social media pages. We'll see you all in the next video. Don't be late for your appointments, guys. Bye.